Welcome to the Artist Check-In. I'm your host, Nick Zano. My day job is talking to artists, mostly comedians, for different publications, which means I know a lot of people whose livelihoods have been impacted by the quarantine associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. On this limited series, I'll be talking with comedians, musicians, authors, and other creative people about how they're handling this personally and professionally. Today, it's Chris Johnson, a musician and sound engineer, who's actually responsible for the sound of the song you're hearing in the background right now. He's the bass player for Deafheaven, who had to cancel a tour and are trying to figure out how to record a live album when people can't gather to watch live shows. If you're a musician trying to record from home, there's a good discussion here about what Chris can do for you remotely and what to think about when setting up a home studio. You work in a studio, which is your own studio, but then you also have, you should be out on tour right now playing bass with any number of bands.
Yep. We should have left like almost 3 weeks ago now.
Right.
Maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that. But yeah.
Where would you have been going? Where I know it was an international tour, right?
This one, it was mostly US. It was North America, so it was US, a couple Canadian dates. No Mexico dates, unfortunately, but yeah, it would have been basically 6-week tour though. So 33 shows or something like that.
with Deafheaven? Is that who you
with Deafheaven, yeah, exactly.
Deafheaven.
Yeah, so that was, and we're still working on rescheduling the tour, but it's kind of looking like for a lot of people in the business that like 2020 as a whole is just going to be and it's kind of looking that way for us too. We're really trying to get this tour rescheduled, but it was basically, we're supposed to do this long tour and then start to kind of wrap up some of the writing phase or continue the writing phase for the next album and then record in like August essentially. And now I'm not entirely sure what the time frame is. Also supposed to be recording like this live record last tour. We're going to record 2 nights and release a live album, which was good too because it was going to be another release, another hate to call it a product, but something to put out there, which would be really cool. Get a little bit of money coming in right now, so right. It's kind of hit us in a couple different ways, unfortunately. But what the band is doing now is basically we're going to record the live album, but in studio in a few weeks. So that has turned into something completely different as well. But it's going to be like a best of live in studio kind of thing. I don't really know, but like a bunch of people pre-ordered the thing and like donating and stuff to at least keep the band, because it's not only are we not making money on tour, but we it is a substantial amount of money, but we lost thousands and thousands of dollars on the rental RV thing that we drive and all this other stuff that we had scheduled for this tour. But but most of it, I think like everybody kind of doing whatever work.
It's kind of pick at, if you try to reschedule the tour now, and you'll lose the thousands and thousands again if you guess it's September and this goes on through then, right? That's the big obstacle.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And I mean, like maybe rental places and stuff like that, or even in a kind of different spot right now, they might be a little more understanding. But leading up to this, it was certainly like, you probably deposit half of the tour and then you pay for the rest at the other end of it. But we just lost that deposit or something to that effect. But the thing is that the thing with just let's pick up in September is like, we don't even know if you're going to be able to gather in groups over a certain number by that point yet anyways. Right. And they're also like, I'm talking to some of my promoter friends, my friend Aaron Gray, who is a promoter in Boston, and he's like, another thing to consider is like how many small venues are going to be operating after this whole thing, whenever this thing ends anyways, I mean, which is a really unfortunate reality. But is something that I hadn't really considered at first. And it was like, oh, right. Because a lot of these places operate on a kind of a shoestring budget anyways. And then you talk about closing the doors for, months and months. It's like, I don't know what, they go do something else after that instead of running a rock club or whatever. But,
well, we have our own clubs in Boston that have been sort of teetering on the brink before this even started. So
before it even started. Yeah. Yeah.
And so many that have closed in the past, even, I mean, if we put it out to 5 years, we've got a pretty substantial list of venues that are either different now or just gone altogether.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was, I know it's been kind of put on pause for now. Well, everything's put on pause for now, but I was riding by the Middle East the other day. And I was like looking at all those condos on the other side of the street. And I was like, oh, now I understand what the plan is for this neighborhood now. It's for everything to look like that. So even, like some of the staples that have been around in the neighborhood forever are certainly seem to be somewhat in jeopardy at the moment right now too, which is, more doom and gloom, but well, they'll something will happen.
It's a shame that some of those venues that people have been trying to build over, that have been hanging on. This might be the thing that finally puts more condos in that spot instead of the really cool venue you've been going to for 30 years.
Right. I kind of wonder too, like in like sort of urban development stuff, how much that's going to get put on hold right now, where, projects that hadn't begun yet in terms of building condos and stuff like that, what those companies are going to look like after this. And if it's at least gonna, maybe it'll push that kind of development back a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know,
Because you can't, major construction has also halted.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's just the optimist in me being like, we'll get a couple more, a little bit more of the old Boston neighborhood here before it's all condos and stuff. But, I don't know.
Well, as an artist, you do have to be flexible, and it's good to hear that Deafheaven has a plan, that everything's not just completely on hold, that you have something you can do.
Yes. Yeah. We've definitely had a couple sort of group meetings with the band and our manager, just kind of being like, okay, now what are we going to do? As things change a little bit. I think there's been 3 now. And the last one was essentially, I think 2020 is a wash, and everyone was like, oh my God, you mean no, but it's like, it's already starting to, so we're pretty much, pushing the whole tour back like a year, I think is the plan. So,
and to say that in April too, the 2020 is a wash, and we're not even, we're just a little over a week into month 4 of the year.
Exactly. I know. And I was kind of saying that to myself yesterday. I went out for a nice long bike ride, and I was like, that phrase was kind of echoing in my head. 2020 is a wash already. And that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, okay, so 3/4 of the year remain, and kind of like, I mean, a wash is being, it's kind of like a little dramatic about it. Something will get done. Well, certainly things will happen, but in terms of getting back on the horse and getting out there and touring, it's definitely not looking like, but we obviously, haven't really like announced anything because it's still so touch and go, so maybe the tour will happen in the fall, maybe something will happen, but I think as of now it's kind of like, all right, let's shift focus to like the record basically, and just kind of take it as it comes. But it sucks, we had a bunch of cool stuff planned, and at the end of the album cycle for this last tour, so that's when you end up in some interesting, like we did Asia in the fall, and we're kind of talking about doing South America. We're supposed to play like Russia and Turkey and stuff, and I'm pretty sure all that's gonna fall through because I don't think anybody's going to Europe this summer either. So,
well, hopefully it'll be there for you when everything does
start
up, because everybody, I mean, I guess the silver lining of that, other than if you're somebody who likes to bike around town, things are probably a little more sparse. That's probably but everybody's sort of in the same place, or mostly everybody's in the same place. I'm sure that the millionaires are going to be in the same place regardless, but
it's just all
So how does one record a live album in an age of social distancing?
Right. This is the conversation. I was funny. I was talking to our engineer for like an hour the other day on the phone, just kind of catching up and seeing what he's been up to and stuff. And basically, and that was kind of his question. He's like, so what exactly are we doing here? I'm like, well, you know, which isn't exactly your question, execution wise versus like, yeah, staying clean. But what we're going to do is I'm gonna, as of now, like we're gonna record this thing, I believe in May at some point. I'm like 95% sure that I'm gonna drive to Oakland and just take 4 days rather than go, because I didn't even find like direct flights. So you're talking about going to the airport, being at the airport, getting on a plane, having a layover at another airport, getting on another plane, and just like I just don't want to be the one to like bring it into the studio with my friends and the engineer and everything. And then, you know, so it's like if and those guys are, everyone's pretty kind of, you know, I don't want to say shut-ins. We're all kind of homebodies in one form or the other anyways, minus maybe going to local shows and stuff like that. So it's like everyone's been pretty much, so like definitely social distancing, definitely just staying at home, definitely hopefully not picking it up. Maybe we got it and are asymptomatic or whatever already, but the plan is basically we're all just gonna, you know, two guys live in the Bay Area,